Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. Today I have a blog post that goes along with a block hop for Brutus Monroe, and this is all about subscription items. So I've got a lot of fun subscription items from Brutus Monroe that we're going to be using today, starting off with this awesome stencil, or die of the month, I mean. This one's called Tile, and it's awesome. It's just gorgeous. It has a lot of intricacies, so because of that, I'm going to grab this Sizzix die brush and foam pad to help me get all those little pieces out of there. Most of them stayed in the die because I did run it through my die machine a couple different times just to make sure that I had a good crisp cut. But this little tool is fantastic for getting all those little pieces out, and it's not very expensive, at least when I last looked it wasn't. So I will have that link down below. I got this from my best friend for Christmas. And it also works great to get the little pieces out of the die, so I'll just hold that over the trash can and do that. But now we're ready. I just cut that out of some regular cardstock. I'm going to cover that with my embossing ink because I plan to use the embossing powder of the month as well. And this one's called Gadgets and Gizmos, and it's beautiful. It has this really nice sheen to it. And so I'll just pour that all over my die. And it's better to do this ahead of time, or to cut the die out first so that it doesn't mess up the embossing powder. Because I thought about that too, but this is just a better way, and you use a little less of your embossing powder. So I'll cover that up. I notice I missed a few spots, and that's okay because I'll get to go back over that once again. But I'm going to pick up my mess before I make too much of a mess. And it never fails whenever I'm dumping embossing powder back in its canister. I always get some on the table. But anyway, I'm going to use my paper piercer to hold the die in place, and I'm using my heat tool to just melt that until that, or heat that until that is smooth and melted. And you'll be able to tell because it will go from a matte finish to a shiny finish. And then I'm also able to see really where I didn't get or do a very good job of covering it with the embossing ink. And so then I'm going to let that cool for a minute, and then I'll go back over those spots with the embossing ink one more time. And I'm just doing this on my Tim Holtz glass media mat. That makes cleanup super easy, which I'm just using a baby wipe for. And then I'll cover those pieces once again with that embossing powder, and then heat that one more time till that is smooth and melted. So easy peasy. Now the subscription items have to be, purchased through subscription, but they're very worth the price. I just have a piece of confetti white cream cardstock, I think actually. It's cream cardstock. I had it in my stash. I don't know who it's by. But I'm going to use one of the shaker pouches that Brutus Monroe has in the store. These are awesome and so easy to make shaker cards with. So I like to peel off just the bottom portion. And then that way I can make sure that I'm adhering my pouch to my background very easily. And then I'll peel off the rest. And then you only have a little bit of buckling, but it isn't a big deal because you really can't tell once you get your stuff in there. You don't want to peel off the top part just yet. That will close up the shaker pouch. And I had a little bit of excess, so I'm just trimming the excess off with my scissors. And that's easy to do as well. And then when I've got that ready to go, I'm going to start putting my shaker elements in. So I just have these sequin mix that I don't know who that's by. Just in my stash. And then I also have some micro beads or micro pearls. Those are from the Brutus Monroe store. And then you can peel off that last backing paper and close it up, and voila, you have a shaker card. Super easy. Now this one isn't going to, like if you had some thick elements, it isn't going to work very good with that, but for sequins and glitter even, you could do glitter in there, and micro beads, it's a win all over the place. I'm going to use some 1/8 inch Scor-Tape all around the edges of my die. The cool thing about these dies of the month is that they are typically, I believe they're, well so far, always cover the front of an A2 size panel. So it's going to take up the whole front of your card, which is so cool. But I've seen some neat things done with it. And then I'm going to peel off part of the backing paper. I cannot remember who I saw this from. I'm pretty sure I saw this somewhere. This is not my own idea. And I even did it sort of wrong here because you're supposed to do each separate corner. You just peel back a little bit of it and fold it over, and then that way you can line it up super easy without worrying about it tacking down where it shouldn't. And then where you think you have it ready, you just peel that paper away, your release paper, and then there you go. It is adhered to the front of your card. And I love it. I love that die. So pretty. And now I'm going to move on to doing my stamping. And this is the stamp of the month. Is that not cool? It's steampunk, which is pretty much the theme of this entire month. So I know I have an inspiration box on its way here. Can't wait to get started with that. But that one is steampunk as well. And I'm going to emboss it once again. So I'm using my magic powder bag in this case, covering that with my embossing ink, closing the door of my mini Misti, stamping that down, and then I'm going to cover that once again with that Gadgets and Gizmos embossing powder of the month. Can't get enough of this stuff. And you'll notice there's a little bit of a finish. That's the mica powder in it. But that's not a big deal. So I will heat set this. So that's going to get smooth and melted. And then I'll let that cool for a second before I wipe away any of that powder. And so in the time it takes for me to clean up my mess, I'll be able to wipe that away just using my microfiber cloth. And then there's no issue. And I'll go into coloring. Isn't that pretty? So for the coloring, I'm going to use the Aqua pigment in the color Penny. So I'll shake it up. Isn't that pretty? I thought that went really well with the steampunk theme. And to start, I am going to just put a whole wash of Penny all over my image. Because obviously he's a metal owl, which is really cool. But yeah, I will completely cover that. And then I'm going to set that off to the side to dry for a second. And then I'm going to grab out some of the heat-resistant vellum from Brutus Monroe, and I'll run that through my die cutting machine with one of my circle dies. Because I plan to use that. I don't want to cover up too much of that dye on the background, so that's why I use the vellum. And now I'm going in full strength. I'm using a number 2 Simply Simmons water brush, and I'm going full strength with the Penny Aqua pigment, just in specific areas. Obviously, I don't want to do the whole thing. I want there to be some variation in the color. So I'm just picking some feathers and other spots like his eyes and his beak. And then his tail feathers. I do his claws as well. But you could have a lot of fun coloring this little image. If you wanted to go crazy with color, you sure could, because there's a lot of detail in this stamp. But I chose to stick with the more metal look. But yeah, I thought he was so cool. When he showed up in the mail, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I don't even have a stamp like this. So yeah, I'm just doing some finishing touches. And then when that's done, I'll set that off to the side to dry a little bit before I start fussy cutting him out. But yeah, isn't that cool looking? I love how that turned out. Now it's time to think about my sentiment. So I'm grabbing the sentiment that says hello, and that one comes from Feathered Homes, one of the newer stamp sets. This one has a lot of great little everyday sentiments in it. So I'll stamp that just using the Detail Raven ink. And then I trim that down, and now trying to figure out how you're going to attach the vellum is the trick, right? So I am going to use my Xyron sticker maker and run the hello through the sticker maker. I cannot do that with the circle because obviously my sticker maker isn't quite big enough. But because I plan to adhere my owl with some foam tape over the top of that vellum circle, it isn't going to be an issue because I will just end up putting the glue behind the owl. Wherever he is covering up some of that vellum is where I will put the glue. So I'll peel off my backing paper, and then I'll attach down my owl, and then this is where I'll grab some of the craft glue and just put a little bit of that behind him, and then you'll never see it. It's perfect. The vellum stays true. And then I'll peel off my Hello Vellum, which has completely a sticker back all over it, which is awesome. And then tack that down. And then I'll flip it over and I'll trim off the excess of my little vellum circle. But I decide that I still want to add a little bit more to this card. Not to the front, because there is plenty going on the front, but I'm going to grab my stamp one more time. And then I'm just going to stamp that on the inside of the card, just using that detail Raven ink. Yep. And then once that's done, that's going to finish off this card. So yeah, as I said before, this is a part of a blog hop. So I'll have my blog listed down below so you can head over there and then go check out the rest of the Inspiration Team's blogs, because there's sure to be a lot of great inspiration for the different subscription items from this month. So if you liked this video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.